Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dropping the Gloves. Thanks for joining us here. We did it, Tim. We got those damn Carolina Hurricanes out of the playoffs, finally. Those little leeches that just won't let go. But it was a hell of a run. They gave us a scare again, like we're on the Florida Panthers now. We're on the team. Do you feel that? Do you feel the connection? But yes, it was a great game last night. And this is where I need to maybe change my tune, but I would just have a message for Rod the Bod and all the guys in Carolina. You'd be a hell of a lot more enjoyable to watch if you played every game like last night, right, Tim? Wasn't that fun to watch? It was a great game.
It was, yeah, it was a great game. They go up 1-0 early with Aho, and they get a second goal in the first period, and the building is rocking. And at this point, I'm like, okay, it seems like Carolina's going to win. I still don't think they have a chance to close out this series, but they're going to send it back to Florida. And then Florida does what they always do, what they do so well, what all the best championship teams do, is they just bounce right back. Like it never happened. They scored 2 goals in 30 seconds. Because I was like, we were watching some TV last night, and I was kind of going back in the game, and I checked Twitter, and all of a sudden it's a tie game. I'm like, I was gone for 10 minutes. It's crazy. Take all the momentum back, and then at that point, it's Florida's game pretty much from then out. Even though I know it was tied later, but they knew they were going to win that one.
Yeah, it was just a foregone conclusion for the Florida Panthers. But hey, you never know once you get it to 3-2 what will happen. There's always that chance. But you're right. There are just some teams, and this is something that's changed in today's game. Back in the day, and I think the rule changes with clutching and grabbing really have played a part in this, and refs really cracking down 10 years ago on no hooking, no clutching, no grabbing, no can openers. No lead is safe. Back in the day, you'd get up by 2 goals. That's it, game over. Because you could clutch and grab and hook and clog up the neutral zone, and no pucks would get through. It would just be no-fly zone. The New Jersey Devils were so good at that. And so were other teams. It wasn't just them. These days, it seems like you can't even be up by 3 goals and be comfortable. It's just a common theme. I feel like we're the NBA now. You get up by 20 in the NBA, and then like that, it's a tie ball game. But goodness gracious, the Florida Panthers just sure know how to click it on, and good for the Carolina Hurricanes. They did not go weekly into the soft night. What's that saying? You probably know that, Tim. You're
Not go quietly into that good night. I think that's what it is.
Dangerous minds. Rage against the dying of the light. Right? And they did.
Right.
It was a heck of a game. Sebastian Aho finally decided to show up and score some goals. Like, mind you, they were gifted to him. A couple turnovers, but still, he buried them. And the Carolina Hurricanes played really, really well. But like you said, champions do what champions should do. And the Florida Panthers showed why they are champions and why they will potentially be back-to-back champions and why they are going to their 3rd straight Stanley Cup final. They have that extra gear. They have that intestinal fortitude to say, yeah, we're down by 2. So what? Let's go. And then they come back and they just dominate the rest of the game. It was a great game. I loved it.
Don't you think, like, if Florida was down 3-2 going into the 3rd, you'd still pick Florida?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. It's crazy what they do. And then it goes to the guys that it always goes to. It's Carter Verhaeghe, it's Sam Bennett, it's Barkov, it's Marchand. Like, it's just the line-for-line matchups are a nightmare. And they're star players. And we still haven't even seen, like, a healthy and Matthew Tkachuk at his best yet. So, yeah, Florida's heading back to the Cup Finals, and they're looking unbeatable right now.
Yeah, and it's not just those guys, Tim. It's Evan Rodriguez. It's Luosterainen. It's Lundell. It's these guys who propelled them last year to the Cup. They're showing up. That was Evan Rodriguez's first goal of the playoffs. I think they had 4 guys who hadn't scored yet, and he was one of them. So he buries one, gets on the board. It's starting to come together for this team. They're just playing great hockey. The Carolina Hurricanes didn't really give them a scare. They're moving on to the Stanley Cup Finals 4-1. Freddie Anderson played for average. I was reading some Carolina Hurricanes blog posts and stuff like that to prepare. They just say this is what Freddie Anderson does. He dangles the carrot. I'm a good goalie. I'm a good goalie. I'm a good goalie. Look at me go. And then he throws up an egg like this, where it's like, we need a save, Freddie. We need a save on a 5-hole save. We need a save when it's tied 2-2, and he just could not do it. They had their chance. They were up 2-rip, and they let it slip away. And Florida Panthers, man, they're just so incredibly fun to watch. But the interesting thing about this, there's a couple of points in this game I wanted to talk about. Sam Bennett. You enjoy watching him. I do. But then some of the things he does, you go, gosh, you're a real jerk, Sam. You're just you're not a nice player. And he did it again where he was falling on Freddie Anderson, and you can tell he shoves him. He forearm stiffs him in the back of the head. It's the same similar type play of Anthony Stolarz when he took him out of the game, and we've seen Bennett do this time and time again in the playoffs. What do you make of it? It's just par for the course for him, right? Like, why would we expect anything less?
Yeah, it's frustrating because he's a guy that I really want to root for.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's such an effective player, and you love his game, and you love the way that he agitates people. And then he's not on the level of like guys like a Matt Cook or Rafi Torres or those types where it's like over the top dirty every shift. But he does these things like once a series in pretty much the last 2-3 years, and it's like, why? Like, you don't need to take out a forearm to the back of the goalie's head. You're gonna win this game. You're gonna win this series. Like, why do that? It makes no sense. It's very frustrating because it creates like a what do you call it? It doesn't jive in my mind because I want to like him, but like, why are you doing these things that make me not like you? And it's not needed. If you're down a couple of goals and you want to spark things and do some extracurricular stuff after the whistle or throw like a late hit or whatever, and that's all part of the game. But I don't like the stuff targeting the goalies. That doesn't make sense to me.
Let me tell you, this is just who he is. It's ingrained in him. And the funny thing is, it's not egregious, right? It's not a forearm shiver coming from the top rope that you notice right away. It's these little subtle, maybe inconsequential. Was it on purpose or was it, an accident type of contact that he has with these goaltenders? So the referee is put in this gray area where, did he mean it? Was that intentional or was that an accidental contact? And he's so good at it, even if it was called a penalty, it's 2 minutes. Because it's not to the height of a 5-minute major. It's just a little graze. It's just a lean on you a little bit. And he's just so incredibly good at it. And I've played with guys who do this, where they're just always around the net. They're always in the scrums to the point where the ref's like, I'm not calling a penalty every single time because I could, but I won't. Like Andrew Shaw, perfect example. I played with Shazzy for a couple years. He's always around the goalie, always in someone's grill, always talking. And he could have been in the box all game. But I think the refs become numb to it, and they almost start to protect you because everybody bitches about you. And you're like, no, it's not a penalty. You can say the same for Tom Wilson. And these guys that's just who they are. It's ingrained in them. And it's a hard thing to do consistently because you get the snot beat out of you. You get slashed, you get cross-checked, you get ridiculed. The target's always on your back. But man, when you compare that tenacity, Tim, and that sandpaper with skill and goal scoring, it's a lethal combination, like an absolutely lethal combination. Everybody used to have this back in the day, 20, 25 years ago. This was the norm. The Legion of Doom, that's what they did. Now it's a unicorn. If you can play physical and be a prick and score goals, boy, oh boy, we like you. That's why Evander Kane's so valuable, and Tom Wilson and Sam Bennett. These guys are so good because nobody does it. Everybody just wants to play on the perimeter. Everybody wants to do the highlight reel goals. Nobody wants to go to the front of the net. That's why Matthew Tkachuk and Brady Tkachuk are so like earth-shatteringly different. Because I know they're just power forwards. Milan Lucic in his prime. It's just a power forward. That's all it is. But then you add on like he's a little bit of a prick. It's like, okay, I get it.
Well, to go back to your point about like it wasn't a specific movement that targeted the goalie's head. I think that was the same thing last night and the same thing 2 weeks ago with Stolarz, where it's like I believe it was intentional, but there's no egregious single strike that you're like, okay, there's the penalty.
Yeah.
Would you be in favor of like addressing that in the offseason where when it's the goalie, the threshold gets dropped where if you make contact like that, penalty? Or do you think you leave it?
Okay, and I'm an old school, and obviously I was a fighter. To get rid of this, you take out the instigator rule. That's it. And I will bet everything I own that you will see goaltender interference and contact with the goaltenders drop off dramatically. Sugar's always a psycho player that does it, knowing that they're going to get their doors beat off. There's always that guy. There always has been. There always will be. There's a Tiger Williams, a Chris Nyland. These guys enjoy fighting and being, in people's grills, and they'll get beat up just to do that. For the most part, it'll go away. The fear of Sam Bennett knowing that, hey, if I touch Bobrovsky, there's going to be someone there who's going to take my teeth out. That'll dissuade a lot of people from doing that, but they never will. So no, I don't think you add that penalty, because then people will abuse it, and people will the goalies will start diving. It'll just slow down the game. It'll be a disaster. So I think it's fine where it's at. I like these types of players. I think it's good. Get in the goalie's grill. Make them nervous. I enjoy what they're doing, but Carolina doesn't have anybody to push back on him. And so Sam Bennett just gets free reign to go anywhere he wants in the crease. Like, who's going to step up? Bernsey, he's 41. Chatfield was injured. Who up front is their fighter? Jordan Stahl? Jordan Martinook? It's just they have nobody at all who strikes fear in the opposing team. And I'm not saying that's what they're missing, but sure would help when you play a Florida Panthers team who just willy-nilly does whatever the hell they want. Luosterainen was a heat-seeking missile this series. Luosterainen, and he's a good, hard player, but boy, oh boy, that's when you have issues.
So Sam Bennett gets the empty net goal. The Panthers win the series, and then you get the handshake line. And there was this moment where Rod the Bod and Paul Maurice shook hands, as the coaches always do. And then it looked like I would say not an argument, but a heated conversation. A very animated conversation between the two. Did you see this?
Yeah, and I watched Paul Maurice's recap of what happened. So what Paul Maurice, and I'm surprised they didn't talk about this beforehand. Maybe that would have been putting the cart in front of the horse. But Paul Maurice was saying, I don't want to go shake the players' hands, and I don't think you should either. Let the players shake their hands. Let the suits stay by the bench, and let's be done with it. Paul Maurice, it's so funny when you start winning, you just start having these opinions, and then your opinions hold weight, and then you just go with it. He's like, yeah, no, let's not do that. I'm moving on to the Stanley Cup Finals. And he did have some good reasons where these players were in a battle, and if you're the losing team, you don't want to shake 20 suits who you don't even know who they are. But at the same time, on the other side of the page, if I'm a scout, if I'm a video guy, and I've spent the last 2 weeks scouting these guys and breaking down video, I feel like I'm a part of the team and I want to shake somebody's hand. I was a part of this win. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting thing, because where do you draw the line? Because what if you're a player but you're injured or a healthy scratch? You didn't play in the series. Do you get to
No,
in the line?
I didn't do it. When we won a series, I felt like a putz. I'm going to go out there and shake hands. No, I was drunk in the press box trying to get down to the bus. Like, I was not part of the win. So I get where both of them are coming from. What, Rod, was he fired up? I didn't see the on-ice interaction.
No, he wasn't fired up. It was more just like, oh, they're not just, saying good series, have a good summer. There was some kind of topic of conversation there. And I actually like this. And I think it's going to catch on. And I think, and to your point, like, you start winning, you have opinions. I think this could spread and become the norm where, like, 10 years, 5 years, whatever, it's automatic. And it all comes down to Paul Maurice going to the Cup 3 years in a row and deciding that, you know what, I think this is just for the players. And as far as, like, the video guys and the scouts, I don't care. I don't care if you
callous.
Go shake. Go shake Seth Jarvis's hand. Like, go do it in the hallway after if you want to say a word. But I like that it's about the players, and I hope this catches on.
I agree. Well, I don't even get the backup goalie out there. You didn't do anything. You stay on the bench, prick. You don't deserve it.
He gets to go out there.
No way. What did he do? He didn't do anything. Stay on the bench.
Those doors don't open themselves, John. Plus, yeah, you don't. I mean, he's warming the guys up. He's at practice every day. I think that's different. He's on the 20-man roster.
All right, well, moving on. The Carolina Hurricanes. So close, Tim. Again, imagine being that core group who's been there for 4 years now, 5 years. You get to the Eastern Conference Finals every single year. You get to the semis in 21 and 22. You finally get over that hump. You get to the finals, 2023, 2025. You just cannot seem to get to the Stanley Cup Finals. Why is that? Why?
Yeah, so, we spend a lot of time over the last, I would say years now, talking about all these rebuilding teams and comparing teams that are in similar places, or at least they were. I think some have kind of, broken from the pack here. But the Montreal, Buffalo, Anaheim, Sharks, Detroit, Ottawa, like all these rebuilding where you could see the core starting to develop and watching them progress and which ones take the steps and which ones don't. And I thought it would be interesting this morning as I was preparing to look at the Canes and some other teams were like, all these great teams that have had a lot of playoff success that haven't won the cup, and start digging into them a little bit more too. And we're going to spend a lot of time in Carolina, Winnipeg, and Dallas. And there's a few others that we'll kind of run through quickly at the end that also, I think, belong in that group. Because obviously the Panthers have won, the Tampa's won. Even the teams that have just won and done and largely been disappointing other years, like Vegas and Colorado, they've still won in the last 5 years. So they get the credit for doing that. But let's start with Carolina. So over the past 5 years, and that's really the window we're going to look at, they have 7 series wins, but 0 finals appearances, like you said. And, of course, they are 1-16 in the conference finals. So pretty abysmal. But they have had a lot of playoff success. And they lost in the conference finals this year, lost in the conference finals last year, or semifinals last year, finals, semi. So, like, they're winning at least one series every year, often 2. And then you look at they won 47 games this year, which is a great season. But each of the past 3 years before that, they were winning 52, 54, 53. So the bar was high. And you've seen them go out and do things at the deadline. Obviously, Rantanen this year didn't work out, but you had Gensel, you've had other guys come in that where you're adding and expecting to, go on long playoff runs. And we have on this show picked them to win the cup entering the playoff tournament. They're an elite team. They're obviously well coached. They have a great system. They have good players, but for whatever reason, and this is how I've said this for years now. There's a ceiling to their game, and their ceiling seems to be the conference finals, where you run against a team that is just more talented, that's just tougher, and that system and all the things that work well the first couple of rounds and in the regular season suddenly don't translate anymore. So what do you make of this team, and do they deserve to be criticized the same way we look at, like, not to the same level, but like Toronto, we've been pretty harsh on? Is it time to start directing some energy this way too?
Yes and no. I think the blame falls in a numerous places here. Obviously, earlier on, I don't think Carolina invested in the team as much as they should have. The owner and the GM, they always had money left in their piggy bank. They never went all in at the deadline. In the offseason, they were a team that built from within. We're going to draft. We're going to develop. That's how we build our team. That's what we pride ourselves on. The last few years, they've bucked the trend a little bit. They've gone out and they've made splashes. It hasn't resulted in wins. And I think early on, it was the GM. It was Waddell. He wasn't doing enough to get this team on equal playing field as other teams. When you go into the Eastern Conference, semifinals and finals, and you're going up against the Bruins team who loaded up, you're going up against the Rangers or the Lightning or the Leafs or the Panthers, all of those teams load up at the deadline. Good, bad, or otherwise. Usually it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But typically when a team wins the Stanley Cup, there are guys that weren't on their team that are playing really great. Look at the Panthers right now. It's Marchand and Seth Jones are playing terrific. You would not be where you are if you don't have those two guys on the team. So early on it's 10, but then you fast forward to the last 2 years. Last year they went out, they got Jake Gensel. He was the big piece. This year they went out, they got Rantanen. He was the big piece. So they got the two biggest pieces in free agency there was. Obviously, it didn't work out this year with Rantanen. So then you have to start thinking, well, if we went out and we got those pieces and we got the clutch goal scorers, why are we still not winning? And it's hard to quantify, Tim. It's one of those things where you can't put a finger on it, because if you did, you would be a genius and you'd be a coach or a GM and you'd have multiple Stanley Cups in your office. But we don't know. And I think what it comes down to is it's just the wrong core. And yes, they develop guys, and I think that it factor is a real thing. Sebastian Aho, is he that guy? I think Svechnikov is not. I think he's a good player, but on a Stanley Cup team, I think he's a second or third line player. I think Seth Jarvis is that guy. But other than that, it's tough. It's tough to just put your finger on what makes a Stanley Cup champion. But then when you see it, you go, yeah, I get it. Matthew Tkachuk, I get it. I get why he's a Stanley Cup champion. Sidney Crosby, I get it. Is there anybody on the Carolina Hurricanes roster that you can look at and go, I get it? Slavin, I think he has that guy. But is there anybody else, Tim, who you look at and you go, damn, that guy's got that it factor?
Yeah, I mean, I do want to give some credit to Aho here because, and first of all, there's kind of a little disclaimer. It's like, it's obviously very hard to win the Stanley Cup. It's very hard to win a game, let alone a series. And there's been a lot of good teams the last few years. And so I don't want to paint this as like, hey, every team that hasn't won the cup in the last 5 years is a failure and should blow it up and start over because you haven't beaten a Tampa or Florida or Edmonton or whatever. But that said, like I think, and I'll stand by this. I'm pretty sure that Carolina, there's no team has won more series in the past 5 years without winning a cup than Carolina. 7 over 5 years is a lot. And some of these other teams we'll talk about didn't even make the playoffs every year. So I do think Aho, he had 2 goals last night in an elimination game. And I've seen the stat. I don't have it in front of me, but he is one of those guys that scores in elimination games and scores in overtime. But I don't know. Is he a 1C on a championship team? I think potentially he could be, but you're going to need a much stronger supporting cast. And like you said, I don't think Svechnikov's a first-line player on a cup team. I think Jarvis could be. I think you're probably 2 top 4 defensemen away. I think you're probably 2 or 3 top 6 forwards away. You're a goalie away. And I don't know what their system looks like. And I know they have some good young players, but it's like they have a high floor but a low ceiling. You know what I mean? Like they're going to be right there, and they're good enough to win a couple of series, but they're not even really close enough to compete for a cup seriously. So I think they're a ways away from winning, even though they are a very, very, very good team.
Yeah, he is a 1C. He has to be, based on what he makes.
He's a 1C, but is he on a championship team? Is what I mean.
In my opinion, no. And his value got inflated when he signed that offer sheet after his 3rd year with Carolina and Montreal. Remember that whole debacle? Montreal came in and signed him to that offer sheet, 5 years, $8.5 million, and he signed it. Carolina had to match it, and Carolina went back and got cocky, and then he signed to an offer sheet, and it just was back and forth. That inflated his value. He was coming off a great season. It was his 3rd season. He had a point per game, 83 points. Terrific season. I don't think he's worth what he makes. But he set that bar early where he's making $8.5 million, and he's a good player. I think he averages 70, 75 points a year. He's never hit 100. Is that your 1C? I don't think so. I don't think that's a 1C who's going to win a Stanley Cup.
I put him in the same tier as like a Dylan Larkin and Nick Suzuki. We're like, they're so good. They can be the leader of a franchise. They can handle the spotlight. They can handle the captaincy, all this stuff. But they're not the upper echelon. If you put him among centers, I don't think maybe Aho's in the back of a top 10, but I don't think he is in the league. Right. And so it's like it's a very, very, very good player on a really good team. But yeah, I just don't know if this is the guy that's going to do it for you. And I hate dumping on him because there's not many of the guys in the league, and most teams don't have it. And he's a very good player, but you're going to need years of building a strong, 1 through 20 supporting cast. If you want Aho to be your best player, you need the 2nd and 3rd and 4th best players to be right there and not a tier below, and a tier below that with Svechnikov and Jarvis and these other players we're talking about.
And I think that's what's happening because and I like Nick Suzuki. I think you're wrong there. I think Nick Suzuki is a top tier centerman. I really enjoy his play. But going back to my point of building within and, re-signing the guys who you drafted and you raised, I think they did that much like other teams do, where you have these guys and they're an RFA, and gone are the days when you get them to a cheap contract. Svechnikov was signed after his 3rd season to a $7.75 million contract. 8 years. All of a sudden, he hasn't progressed. He's regressed. He is struggling in the regular season. He has flashes, but his goal totals have just dropped every single year. And when you're paying somebody that much money, almost $8 million, and he puts up 20 goals a season, he's a 3rd-line guy masquerading as a first-line player. I think that's what we can say. He was a 2nd overall pick. He's not that guy. And you have to make a decision. And we see when it works out, we got Matt Boldy for this much, or, we got McKinnon for this much, and look at how great his contract looks. Draisaitl, he's got a great contract. This is the other side of the coin. When you draft someone really, really early, his 3 years is up, and you want to maximize that contract and sign him to a good team-friendly deal, this is the other side of that, where it's like, shoot, this guy, we still have to pay him till 2029. He's got 5 more years left on his contract. And he's given us 20 goals, and we're paying him almost $8 million. So that's an issue. And it's great to say, homegrown talent. Like, this is it. Like, we did it from within. We did it the right way. And the verdict is still out on friend of the show, Seth Jarvis, because he's making 7.5. Can he take that next step? He matched his point total from last year, 67. When you're making almost $8 million, that's not good enough. You have to be a point per game guy when you're making that money. That's the comparables. And right now, the Carolina Hurricanes, they have not hit that home run with their young players who they drafted, who they developed, and they signed to these big-term deals. Aho is not living up to his contract. Svechnikov is not living up to his contract. Jarvis, the verdict is still out. So those are your three best forwards. And when they're not producing like the way they should, you won't succeed. Slavin is way outperforming his contract. The guy makes 6.3. If he hit the open market today, he would make 8.5, maybe 10.
And we keep forgetting Stankoven, who I think is a stud and is going to be a great player for them. But how many top 6 forwards do they even have realistically? I think those 3 you mentioned, I would probably put Stankoven in there.
No, this is okay. Stop inflating his value. The guy, his most points in a season is 29. No, sorry, this year he got 38. Let's not go crazy with this guy. Like, let's just pump the brakes.
How many top 6 forwards do they have on this roster?
Aho. I think Aho. And maybe Jarvis. The verdict is still out.
Jarvis is a top 6 forward.
Aho and Jarvis. Aho and Jarvis. Those are the two. But in a championship team, I think they're 2C, 2RW. They're not the 1 and 1. On a championship team, right now, I think Jarvis gets better, and he will be that one-line right winger. But right now, when you look at all these great teams, when you look across the ice and you see the Florida Panthers, their first-line right winger is locked in, and they have a great second-line right winger, and you have a great third-line right winger in Brad Marchand. Like, Tkachuk is their second-line right winger. Reinhardt is your first line.
Yeah, and you look at like a Carter Verhaeghe, right? He is probably not, if you were building a roster, he's not a top 6 forward on a championship team, except that their third line is Lindell, Marchand, and Luosterainen, and they can move guys up and down at will, and they're so deep that the third line, second line doesn't really mean a whole lot.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden you can put them on the second line because you have 4 that are really rolling. Where if you added Verhaeghe to the Carolina Hurricanes, he's not moving the needle at all. And I like Verhaeghe. He's a good player. It's the depth, and it's very, very hard to do, and it takes years and years to build that team. And I think to your point, we'll move on to the next one here, but I think they had the plan, and it worked pretty well, but obviously didn't deliver the results they had. And this is the other side of that coin where, yeah, you're overpaying a guy that you bet on, and he's still a good player, he's an NHL player, but Svechnikov is not that guy, and you're stuck with him now.
Yeah, I think if I'm a GM, I'm buying out Kotkaniemi. I think he's gone, and I'm trying to trade Svechnikov. Those are my 2 off-season things I would love to do in an ideal world, because those guys don't fit. I keep Jarvis, I keep Aho, I like Taylor Hall's contract. They have some good young players. Jackson Blake, I really like him. Like you mentioned, Stankoven, I think he'll be a good second, third line player. Most likely third line.
I think he's going to be a 30-goal guy as soon as next year.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I know we used to bet breakfasts all the time. This guy will never hit 30 goals in his career.
Logan Stankoven?
Yes, 100%, Tim. Never.
He's 22 years old, John.
I know. Yeah, let's do it. For all our listeners, mark this date. Year of our Lord, May 29th. Tim and I are betting $100 that Logan Stankoven will never hit 30 goals. And mind you, we're not going to be doing this podcast when he's done his career, but there's no way. Okay, what does he get next year? You said 30?
I think he could get as much as next year, but I think 22 goals next year.
I'm going to go under 22.
Okay.
We'll do a dinner in Grand Rapids. Done. Okay. For the GLI. See, Michigan Tech got a new coach. You see that? Bill McCult?
No, what happened? Why did he retire?
No, I don't know what happened to the other guy. Well, not the other guy, Joe Sean. I didn't see a firing release or any kind of press release, so I don't know what happened to him, but maybe I missed that news. But yeah, Bill McCult. I'm thinking about calling the AD and be like, hey, do you want me to and get one of those titles? You know, and I, honest to God, thought about this, Tim, and I might do it. I'll be like, I'll come in and I'll be like an assistant coach, but only once in a while. I got to think of a title where I come in every once in a while and like just do a hey everybody, like, and just jump on the ice with the guys and teach them nothing because I don't know anything. But that's what I want to do. Hey guys, this is how you rim it around the boards to the other team.
Yeah, send in listeners. Send in what you think his title should be.
But it has to be legit because I really want to do with Michigan Tech, and then maybe I can get because I'm not going to get the big bucks. Maybe they'll throw me like $3-4 grand a month. I come in once a month.
I think special assistant coach or something like that. Um,
Assistant to the defensive coach specialist.
Deal. All
Advisor.
right, let's talk about the next team here, the Winnipeg Jets.
Oh.
Their last 5 years, a lot of regular season success, and I have to almost go back to 2018 because that was a year that they had that huge defense, and we talked about this, but they have won 2 series over the past 5 years, including this year. They lost in the conference semis, obviously. Last year lost first round. 2023 lost first round. 2022 missed playoffs. In 2021 they lost in the conference semis. So this is a team that has only won 2 series over the past 5 years and not looking great. The obvious storyline here is Connor Hellebuck. I think he was better this year, obviously, than last year, but this is one is a bit simpler than the Carolina Hurricanes, where you can blame last year on one player pretty much. And I don't have one answer for the rest of the group and why they haven't seen a lot of playoff success, because when they're on, they're as good as any team in the league. And we saw that a lot over the past 12 months. But when they're not, they don't have an answer. And they also think about, they have the tough, if they had won the West, if they had beaten Edmonton and Colorado, all these other teams, do you give them a chance against the Florida? Like, how do you compare them against a team like that that's going to punch them in the face? Do they have an answer for it?
Oh, at Winnipeg is a heavy team. So I think if one team can match up with Florida, it's this team. They have some beef on the back end and they have some beef up front. I think this team is made for the Florida Panthers. What they're not made for is the run and gun teams, is the Dallas Stars, who have some talent, is the Edmonton Oilers, the Colorado Avalanche. Winnipeg has high-end talent, but I just think it's not as high-end as other teams. And they're living in an era now where you got McKinnon, you got McDavid. You have those two beasts in the West where it's just like, damn, like Mark Scheifele's great. He's a 1C. He's on a 1C asterisk A plus plus plus. He's just not, and Kyle Connor's a great goal scorer. He's not a Rantanen or a Draisaitl. He's not those guys, but he's very, very good. And you have some good depth. I really like Nikolai Ehlers. I think he's terrific.
Me too.
You know what I mean? He's just got that swag. I really, really enjoy him. But they run into good teams. And the problem in Winnipeg, unlike Carolina the last few years, I know Kevin Cheveldayoff. I met him. We're friends. How do I say this bluntly but nicely? He does enough to save his job, and he does enough to keep this team competitive. He doesn't do enough to win a Stanley Cup. He does just enough to be a relevant team. And that's why they're always good in the regular season. They're never that Stanley Cup threat because they don't go out and swing for the fences. When's the last time at the deadline or in the offseason Winnipeg made an impact? Other than re-signing their guys.
Yeah, there was that. I don't have it in front of me. I wish I could remember, but that 2018 was the year that they should have gone all in, where they had like the best team and the best defense, and Hellebuck was playing out of his mind, and they had like all these good players, and they did nothing at the deadline.
Yep.
They added like a fourth line center. We talked about this before in the past, and so yeah, they don't really go all in, and I don't know if it has to do with the cap situation. I don't have that in front of me, but you have to take those bets, and if you don't take those bets, sometimes you lose, like we've seen with like the Rangers and the Bruins and the Leafs even. But I'd rather take the bet and lose than just play it safe every year and never be able to deliver.
Yeah, and that might be dictated by the ownership. We don't know what kind of restraints Kevin Cheveldayoff is under, because you want to make your team better, but when you roll out, I'm not going to do this stupid, insane thing because everybody does it. They haven't really changed their lineup year after year. It's been Scheifele, Connor. It's been Ehlers. It's been Lowry. Those are the guys in Hellebuck. They haven't really changed the top pairs. They brought Dubois in. They got rid of him. I like that move. I think Iafallo and Velarde have been a good addition to this team. But, it's just frustrating. It's got to be frustrating for Scheifele and Connor because you see these other teams going out and making moves. Like Colorado, for Pete's sake, they lose Rantanen. Do they sit on their hands? No. They go out and get Brock Nelson. They get Charlie Coyle. They're making moves. Dallas goes out and get Rantanen. Edmonton's making moves. They're trying to make their team better. And these guys don't, and it's frustrating. So I think the blame falls on Cheveldayoff's feet because they had a window. It's closed now. I don't see this team getting better. Everybody's getting older. Hellebuck sucks in the playoffs. I don't see them getting past a second round anymore, just because other teams they're better. And it's a shame because 5 years, these last 5 years, they should have been to one Stanley Cup Finals, at least one. And they should have a banner in the rafters with how good this team is and how good they were. But yeah, I blame the ownership and the management on this one. They just mismanaged their talent, 100%.
So let's talk about the next team here, the Dallas Stars, which I think is less about the GM and more on the players. They have 3 straight conference finals appearances. They're obviously still in it right now, and it's not in the past 5 years technically, but they did make it to the Cup final during 2020 COVID lockout year, and lost there. But right now they're down 3-1 in the conference finals. Last year they lost in the conference finals. The year before that they lost in the conference finals. The year before that they lost in the first round, and the year before that they missed the playoffs. And it just seems that, and I liken this to the Carolina Hurricanes, where they do have big stars that don't deliver in the big moments. And I thought Rantanen was going to change that, and he still could. They're still very much in this series, but for everything he did over the stretch of 6 games, he's done nothing over the last 9. And now it's like that's not super helpful either. So I don't know. What do you do with this team?
Well, I think you have to look for cap relief, and it's not coming because you still have Tyler Seguin under contract. You have a lot of money tied up with this core, with Johnson, Hintz, Seguin, Rantanen, Robertson. Like, that's, Tim, those 5 guys make almost $50 million. 5-0. And you add into that Heiskin, and that's almost $60 million for 6 players. So it is what it is. I think this is a very good team. I think they're very, very close. I'm a Rantanen fan. I think he did what he could with this team. It falls on the vets. It falls on Roope Hintz. He's not a young kid anymore. He's almost 30. Tyler Seguin, I'm sorry. I know you got hurt and you missed a season and a half, and it wasn't so good in your hips and this and that and the other thing. You make $10 million, pal. Like, you have to do better. We need more from you. We don't need just bursts of it. You have to compete. You have to show why you're that guy who makes $10 million. And again, much like the Winnipeg Jets, you're running into Connor McDavid. That's it. And you're running into McKinnon, and you're running into a Vegas team that everything was going right with Vegas that year when they won the Cup. It's sad because the Dallas Stars, and we mentioned it last episode, they are the San Jose Sharks of the 2020 era, where they're great, really, really great. You're not as good as the LA Kings, San Jose Sharks back in the day. I'm sorry. You don't have Kopitar and Doughty and these stars and Jonathan Quick. And now when you look, you don't have a Bouchard and a Draisaitl and a McDavid. It can't compete with a team like that. So do I see a path forward with this team? No, I don't. I don't think they'll ever be able to overtake Colorado and Edmonton in the Western Conference. I just don't. I thought they had a chance this year with the addition of Rantanen, but they're making them look very pedestrian, Tim. It's just Edmonton's that good.
Yeah, they play tonight. I hope they win. I hope this one goes 7. And I'm actually still rooting for the Stars in this one. I do want McDavid to get his cut, but I like the Stars team and I want them to win.
Yeah, me too.
And break this cycle. But it's not looking like it. I mean, like I said, they could have easily been swept here. So I think the series is all but over.
Well, I think this one's obviously an easy question. Which one of these contracts are the Dallas Stars? Because you have 6 guys who make almost $60 million. Which one of you do you get rid of? Is it Tyler Seguin? Is it the Jason Robertson? Is it the Wyatt Johnson? Because Wyatt Johnson, you just re-upped for $8.4 a year. He's only 22 years old. This was a bridge deal. That $8 million kicks in next year. But he's obviously worth it. Which one do you get rid of? The Tyler Seguin? That's kind of an easy question.
Yeah, it is probably an easy question. But the thing is like, what? Well, first of all, how do you get rid of it?
Well, you don't. Right? Just in a pretend world, if you could just pick one contract and say bye, go away, it'd be Tyler Seguin. And this is a different team without him and that dollar amount.
Yeah, and like to your point, you needed more from him, and he's obviously an effective player, but he's probably a third line guy, right? Like based on output, he's. I'd take Brock Besser over him, right? Like I take some of these other guys that we think are fluky and streaky and all these other things, but talented. And Sagan's nowhere near producing. And I would say even at the talent level of the guys who are making that much money. And it's too bad because he was a guy that was easy to root for. So of these 3 teams, Dallas, Winnipeg, and Carolina, we've been pretty dumpy on them. Does any of these teams feel like they're closer to winning a cup, or who do you think is closest among them?
Oh boy. Well, I think you have to say Dallas just because they have Ottinger and you have Rantanen and you have Heiskanen. You have the three pieces that you can build around. I think Dallas losing Sagan this year, losing Jamie Benn this year, they have a ton of money to spend. If they can manage that well and bring in, like, what do you need? You need to bring in another forward that just can play alongside Rantanen. I think that's the key. So if they can manage that money well and bring somebody in, because you have good young players, you have a great goaltender, and you got great defense. Like Thomas Harley is fantastic. Esa Lindell is really good. Heiskin, you have those pieces. So I think Dallas is the closest, and then I think Carolina needs the most work. They will regress next season. I don't see them taking a step forward next year.
All right, let's talk about some honorable mentions, teams that I think are in this group, but we spend a lot of time on in other episodes. But Toronto, obviously, everyone knows how we feel about them. We don't need to get into that. Boston, I think, is in this group, even though they missed the playoffs this year. But they.
How the hell do you think Boston's in this group of teams that are close?
I'm not teams that are close, but teams over the past 5 years that have had playoff success that haven't won. They fit that.
Boston, listen, stop trying to jam this square peg into a circle hole. Boston stinks.
They had a disappointing season in 2023 after historic President's Trophy run. It has all come apart since, and I think they still belong in that group. Though.
No, they don't. This team stinks. They're going to be a lottery team next year. Curtis here first.
Okay. The New York Rangers, I think, is maybe the most disappointing group among all these teams that we talked about, just in terms of the expectations and how much they just disappear when it matters, and in a more frustrating way too, like the Banajad disappearing and Fox disappearing and all these Panarin disappearing.
Talk about bad contracts on a team. Like this will be an interesting offseason, what they do with Zibanejad and Kreider and Fox and all of these guys who they make all. You think the 6 players making $60 million was bad in Dallas? At least those guys show up in the regular season. Panarin, Zibanejad, Miller, Lafreniere, Kreider, Trocheck, Fox, woof. All of them.
If you're a GM, are you interested in Lafreniere or are you staying away?
Gosh, that $7.5 million is so enticing because when you watch him sometimes, he's so incredibly gifted. Tim, he got 45 points last year.
I know. I had him. I predicted 94. That was my preseason. I'm like, he's gonna break out finally.
Yeah, and he was getting prime minutes. Like he was playing with great players, and he had 45 points. So no, I would not take him on. If I'm taking one player from this Rangers team, I guess I'm going to try to get Trocheck or Panarin. I think Panarin's very, very, very good. I think put him in the right spot, he would be super effective. And the Rangers might be willing to play ball. This is the end of his 7-year deal that he signed with these guys after the Columbus Blue Jackets. They would be maybe motivated sellers to get rid of this guy. So I'm kicking the tires onto the Panarin if I'm a contending team. If I'm a Dallas Stars, kick the tires on an Artemi Panarin. Why not?
Yeah, and the last one I'll mention here are the LA Kings, and I have to include this because they make the playoffs every year and they lose in the first round every year, and it's an unsolvable puzzle. These Edmonton Oilers, they're just outmatched. There's no other way to put it, but probably not quite as disappointing. But man, you're like not one year you couldn't get through that, so that's frustrating.
Well, that's a case of Rob Blake and whoever succeeds him. You need to just kind of go for it. They've been building, they've been holding their prospects and their money, and they haven't done anything at the deadline at all. So now's the time. Like, that's it. I don't think Kopitar is getting any younger. I think you have a good veteran team now. Like, it's time. But I don't know. Like, why just go for it? Like, trade for a defenseman. Give Drew Doughty some help. The poor guy plays 30 minutes a game. Give him some help. I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me. All right, yeah, but they're all of those 4 teams: Toronto, Boston, New York, LA. I think Toronto's by far the most closest. I think Boston, New York, and LA are going to be Boston. Get Boston out of it. You've got such a boner for Boston, and I get it, but people see through this.
John,
Tim.
You can't talk about teams in the last 5 years that have made the playoffs and haven't won without talking about Boston. I know they missed it this year, but they belong in this group.
Why?
They belong in this group. They have gone on runs in the past 5 years. They belong in this group.
But then if that's the case, we should talk about all these other teams. Why don't we talk about Minnesota and St. Louis and Montreal or Tampa or all these other teams. Not
Well,
Ottawa.
Tampa won, and Minnesota, like all these other teams haven't gotten out of the first round. I mean, the Blues, I guess, but the expectations weren't high on them.
You're just such a. It's Boston's going to stink next year.
We talked about 7 teams in depth, and because one of them was Boston, now you're mad at me.
Yeah,
Make it
just
make sense.
get them off the agenda. Just we've got to shoehorn them in every single damn show. Just, Swayman won the World Championships. Great. All right, I think that's it. Anything else, Tim? We could probably have our Stanley Cup matchup by next show. We definitely will.
I think so. Yeah, I think we will. And
All
then
right.
we'll have some time off between the games because they do the whole media tour and all that stuff too.
Should you and I go on a little trip?
I'm down. I don't have anything going on. I don't do anything.
Nice. Maybe we'll
You don't
plan
get
something.
it, John. You don't get it.
I'm going to Moncton, New Brunswick tomorrow.
Nice. I'm going to New York City tomorrow.
You just said you don't go anywhere.
Well, yeah, I did. I forgot. Just a quick trip to Big Apple.
Do you know how close we'll be from Moncton to New York? That's very, very close.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, Moncton's on the East Coast south, so we're close to Massachusetts and that sort of area. So if you want to head up, is Julia coming with you or going solo?
Just solo. I'm just going to see a concert and back Saturday morning.
You're going to a concert by yourself?
I've always wanted to be like, because I see like a lot of bands I love are playing at like Red Rocks Amphitheater in Colorado. I'm like, man, I would love to do that and just go just for the show. But there's a musician I love named Craig Finn who's just put out a new album, and he mostly, like when he tours, he mostly plays by himself or with one other guy, but he's doing this whole big thing with like a big supporting band and other band members that I love, like the War on Drugs. Anyway, so it's going to be a great night, and yeah, I'm going to go up just for that one show.
By yourself?
By myself, yeah.
Have you ever seen the show Dexter?
I'm not taking questions right now, but thank you.
Don't take this the wrong way. If someone knocked on my door and said, "Do you know where Tim is?" and I go, "No, why would I? He lives in North Carolina." And they go, Tim's killed 7 people in the last 24 hours. I'd go, I kind of see that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Look at you. Tim, why are you going to New York?
I'm going to a concert. That's all the time I have. Not taking questions right now. Craig Fan, look it up. It's a great album.
Are you driving?
No, I'm flying.
I'm flying. Okay.
And fly back Saturday morning. It's like 12 hours in New York City.
Be careful. New York's a
Everyone
rough place. All right. Well, have fun. We will we'll talk to you, I guess, when you get back. And thanks for listening, everybody. Leave your comments in the chat on what you think Tim needs to change in his life, because isn't it it's just a little strange going by yourself. You're 30. How old are you now? 34, 35?
34, not really open to feedback right now. But
Oh, that's classic. All right, well, have fun. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you next week. Cheers.